I was like, dude.
Hey, buddy, this is a family place. Put the mouse back in the house.
Welcome to Book Club.
Except instead of books, it's games.
Oh, and instead of a club, there's us two.
But the rest of the idea is 100% the same.
As every fortnight, we play one game solidly.
Then come here to talk about it.
And we want you to do the same.
All the games are retro.
Most of them are Sega.
Some of them we've never played.
Or, we've just forgotten we've played them.
Because we're old.
Because we're old. Because we're old.
Because we're old.
The Book Club has one central theme.
We play retro games for their quality.
Games that deserve to still be played.
There are some bonus old man memories to be had. But you don't need nostalgia if the game is awesome.
We're going to prove it.
In the Book Club.
Hello, and welcome to Book Club. Yes, it's me. It's Bedgel. And yes, it's him. It's Dibs Ahoy. Hello, Dibs Ahoy.
How's
How
he?
you doing? You're looking good.
What's up?
You're looking
How's it
fine.
going?
No, we had a little chat.
Yeah?
We had a little chat before that maybe I throw a few compliments at you at the start of these videos. And, maybe you don't know what to say about it. But, dude, it's not my fault that you're incredibly handsome and erudite and sexy and you smell nice. Even from here, I can just tell you've got an aroma.
Got a bit of links going on, you know what I'm saying?
Oda Gamer. Psh, I like it. So, but, everyone knows it. Everyone agrees. And what I'm amazed by is we haven't had a flurry of comments on the videos complimenting you, your appearance, your sexy voice.
It's incredible, isn't it?
I'm just saying that if people want to give you a bit of love, I won't get jealous. I'm not protective, it's fine.
Well, that's good to know. So.
And brace yourself for what is the worst link I'll ever do on one of these videos. I'm also not protective of the contents of what we're about to talk about. So let's reveal it right now. What are we going to talk about?
We are going for the SEGA Saturn version of Hideo Kojima's Policenauts.
Woohoo!
Which is a very cool game that we didn't officially get in the West. So fans had to take that bull by the horns and translate that bad boy. So,
I think a lot of people feel this way, but actually, I know we've had to wait, and there is potential in any fan translation. It won't be as good. I'll just say up front, it is good. It's amazingly
really
good, the translation. But I think there's actually something more special about playing a fan translation because you sort of feel that love. This is one of the big ones I've done. Obviously, played a fair bit of Sakura Wars as well. And you sense the same thing. You just feel like, I don't know, it feels like you're in it together. Do you know what I mean? Like, even though it's 30 years old, you feel the fingerprints of other gamers.
Yeah, and it's like, we never thought we were going to get these things. We didn't know, like, when this stuff was first shown off, like how things were going to progress, that the fan community was going to do all this stuff and then get these games out to us that we'd seen in magazines like 30 years ago or something like that. We had no idea. So it's like, it's a real treat just to be able to have these things now.
It makes me realise, almost like, we often talk as retro gamers about how modern technology advancements don't really wow us anymore, like HD to 4K and I don't know 120 frames rather than 60 and all that jazz. It's like, so what? This is the type of thing that gets you going. Like homebrew games where they sort of like, or not homebrew. Like fans that have like made old games come back to life or ported them onto systems. And these translations, this is the stuff that is sort of the modern world being amazing to me. It's like,
this is where the magic's at in my books. I love it. It's just great.
I mean, maybe I won't get a chance to say it, so I will just say the translation is bloody brilliant, and so props to the guys that did it. And it's just, it is not only does it allow us to play the game, it's I don't know how faithful it is. There's definitely a few times where you can hear sort of things being said in Japanese that aren't actually in the wording, but I get the sense that they've definitely got the spirit of it and they put character into it, or they capture the character. I just props to them. It's so good.
Yeah, it's got a lot of character. Yeah, we don't actually know specific names, do we, of who did the translation, but it was released on Junker HQ, which was like this Snatcher Policenauts fan site. Like I remember reading that site like I don't know, like probably like nearly close to like 20 years ago or something, and it was so long ago. But yeah, they're the ones who kind of spearheaded getting this thing out to everyone. It's like, yeah, much appreciated.
Much for cheers, dudes.
Yeah.
Things like obviously there's a few groups of people that do these ports and these translation stuff, and some of them do make themselves known, and I do lend my support to them. You know, I do the Patreon. It's sort of one of the few places on the internet where I feel like that's somewhere I just feel like is, you know, I was going to say good value. That seems a bit much, but it's good value. But it's like, it feels like something I genuinely care about. And I just, you know, anyone else who want to do the same, they're out there. Maybe not these guys because we don't know what their names are, but thanks, whoever you are. So now there's only one place with this game we can really start, and that's got to be Hideo Kojima, because this is a game that's about him as a creator. So is Snatcher, so is Metal Gear, so is all the stuff he's really done. He is one of the most famous names in gaming, so we've got to start there. Not everyone watching this will like know a huge amount about him. We won't try and do a biography, but just, you know, what's I'm saying all that stuff about him being a creator. What do we know about him? What makes him famous? You know, what's so good about him? You know, chuck anything out there. We'll just start there and ramble on afterwards.
Well, I mean, he's so unique, isn't he? It's like all the details that he puts into these worlds and things like that is stuff that, you know, I kind of feel like sometimes other people would kind of like just gloss by it, but it's like, you know, I remember in Policenauts, like early on when you're on the shuttle, like whatever it is, going to Beyond, like, I mean, you can click on like an air vent above the character or something like that, and it's got information as to why it's there, how it works, what it does, all this kind of stuff. And it's like these tiny little details, and it's like, you know, he's really like thrown himself into the world. He wants to develop it and be able to explain the intricacies of it and these tiny little details, and that's one of the things that I think is really makes his games kind of stand out a lot from other people's.
Yeah, it is massive, and like when you're playing them and you click on those things, they're kind of a quirky interest. And I remember Snatcher had it. In fact, I played Snatcher yesterday and picked and spotted a few of those things. I was like, oh, that's really interesting detail. Thanks for that. But it can seem just quirky, and then you're right, at the end you sort of sit back and think, yeah, I get why he needed to do that. It's like the reflections in the mirror. It's like kind of the knowing what happens over here makes this the central bit so good. And you know, you don't, I think I don't know about you, I click on everything, you know.
Totally.
I don't know whether you have to, so I can't tell you whether if you don't click on all the quirky details includes, you can still progress, because I do click.
I don't know, but it's like you want to kind of almost understand the way his mind works, like in the way he's constructed what you're kind of seeing, what you're kind of playing, like how everything's working and things. It's like you want to know those details, and it's like, you know, you click on it one time and it tells you a bunch of stuff, and then you click on it the second time, it tells you a bunch of extra stuff, and it's like, you know, that kind of depth that he's gone to. It's like it's something quite, you know, you just want to behold it, don't you, and just like take it all in, and because he's put the effort into coming up with it all, and you want to appreciate it.
He is a creator of worlds. I think that's the thing. These, you know, you can go back right to the first Metal Gear, and there's evidence of him telling stories and creating a wider world, and having characters that were more full-bodied than the tiny sprite on the screen. You know, right from the off.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind that there are references that thread all the way from the start through these games, through Metal Gears and stuff. You know, he just loves that stuff, and I think it's all because he's like a method creator. You know, like method actors just don't come out apart. That's like him, isn't he? Sort of lives in these worlds. So essentially, before, this is not Policenauts, but they're like, you know, the real life lady that Jamie seen in Snatcher was based on, then crops up as an actress in Death Stranding, and it's like, okay, that's that kind of synergy. It doesn't really make any difference to the game, but that's just sort of speaks of who he is. He loves that sort of stuff.
And I love that as well. That's really cool. I love that touch. Like, I love those kind of nods all the way through the different games. These little touches. It's like, you know, it just makes it fascinating. I mean, it is like, you know, when I first played Metal Gear Solid, and I'd played Snatcher previously, and all the references and the names like the Outer Heaven and the Foxhound and all this sort of stuff. You know, I mean, it's like, it's great. It's like, it's just nice to kind of know what he's referring to a lot of the time as well, and like just kind of be on the, you know, you kind of feel like you're slightly on the same page. I mean, I can't say you're going to be fully on the same page because his mind is like so much like bigger and like, you know, more imaginative and stuff like that, but it's like that little glimpse into like, I see what you're doing there kind of thing, you know?
I like it. In fact,
because
the way I remember it, bearing in mind obviously when we were like first playing the 90s stuff, we didn't really have access to everyone's knowledge about all of this to piece it together. You know, these days you can just look up a wiki and get every reference in every game and stuff. But the real one that sticks with me is when we'd played Metal Gear on PlayStation, and then afterwards, the next time I played Snatcher, and like Metal Gear popped up, and I was like, oh my god, you know, not surprised I suppose because we did make the link, but it's like just the coolness of it, and it's like it was actually that way round. It was like Snatcher obviously on a repeat playthrough later, but anyway we digress. Kojima, he's a creator, you know, he like creates worlds, and I guess it's just he has an X factor, isn't it? He brings something to a game that is just beyond the norm, and I think the big thing is what we talk about is that he just fleshes everything out, the detail, the like, and I guess the ideas. His ideas are never standard, you know. This is like
he's very unique, isn't he? He's always aiming for something like, you know, not necessarily going against the grain, but if his idea is like he wants to do this particular type of thing with the game, that's what he's going to be making. He's going for it. So that's just like really cool.
Because I think essentially before I read a quote with him in an interview where he said something to the effect of, I won't get it word perfect, it was like, he said, after they've played Policenauts, I really hope that they'll reflect, I want to know more about organ transplantation. And I'm like, okay, dude. I mean, if there's another game developer in the world that's had that as the game, as the aim of the game,
that's the takeaway there.
Imagine him going to Konami going, listen, guys, this is what I want to make. It's like, Kojima, just take some money and go away. But
just go lock yourself in your office.
I mean, unintentionally we stumbled onto that because I think that did eventually lead to friction with Konami, and he left under a cloud. And you know, I don't think we want to speculate on exactly what happened, but as we understand it,
I have no idea. But
I think
I know he didn't finish Metal Gear. Was it Metal Gear 5 he was doing at the time, or something?
Second part of it or something? I can't remember. Yeah,
I read something about, and I haven't played it. Like, it's I own the game, but so it's sitting there waiting to be played. But like many others, I'm sure I'll get around to it. But it's something like he left quite near the end, and you can really tell at the point where his departure came or something. This is what I've heard. I really don't know. I mean, like, you know, I'd be quite interested to play it and see if I can notice that. But apparently didn't finish quite at full strength. Like,
because that was the other intrigue about it. Yeah, he left in a hurry, you know, and things were like canned or shelved and like didn't happen and stuff. But yeah, you know, allegedly the story is that he just spent money like there was like it was going out of fashion. He constantly like wanted revisions and delays and projects and stuff. Just a publisher's nightmare, I guess. And from the sounds of things, that eventually they just had enough. But then Konami allegedly has other sort of things said about it, such as they work their people really hard, and you know, it's kind of like slave labor.
And I guess kind of their focus was changing away from games a bit as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, because they're just a different company these days, aren't they?
It's like they just like had that pachinko focus or something like that, didn't they? And it's like dropping games, and I mean, kind of that's how it's played out. It's like we haven't got any Castlevanias or any of those kind of big licenses ever since, really. So
I mean, I can't be the only one who wants Hideo Kojima pachinko. I mean, come on, how big would that be? If he's like some kind of virtual reality and like certainly some smutty elements. I mean, it'd be ace.
Well, he did do the Lord of Shadows. Actually, he was involved in, wasn't he? That 360.
He just gets
spreads his wings. We got. Yeah, so we did get a bit of a Kojima Castlevania, which is quite an interesting combo. So I didn't mind that game actually. Yeah.
A fully fleshed out Kojima Castlevania. I mean, because he's got his type, I suppose, as well. He likes a bit of technology, science fiction type bent things as well. But I suppose, so Kojima, like, bit of falling out. I think just he's a unique talent, and certainly someone we don't always talk about the devs this much. And like I say, we're not trying to do a biography. We just have to like give him a shout that what he creates something quite different. Oh, I know what I was going to say about it. It was like when we were saying about like Control and how much he's involved. You know, you get a lot of stories about producers and even directors who are not hands-on because they're not the developer. You know, they're not coding it. They sort of have project direction. And Kojima famously, Policenauts being the one where it really came home, it was controlling that stuff. He is not a programmer, but he found that he built this thing to enable him to actually write the script and insert his ideas directly into the game. He's one of the ones that is properly involved. He's not a sort of hands-off ideas man. He's like in the thick of it,
passing it off to someone else or something. He's like, he wants to be right in there in the middle of the action sort of thing.
Yeah. Now we said obviously, like when you play each of the games that he's made, you see little references to other stuff, and I think so. I suppose we'll get to that, but maybe first we just talk about how this game compares to Snatcher, because when we were preparing for this, we're like, Snatcher is one of our great loves, and Policenauts. This was my first full playthrough of Policenauts for this vid. I'd started it a couple of times, got a couple of hours in, not really like anything substantial. Yeah. Whereas Snatcher, I've played through like multiple times. You had it like way back in the day. That's got history for us. So it's an interesting comparison because obviously they were quite close in time. He was like finishing Snatcher as he was preparing this, and it's only a couple of years between sort of the releases and stuff. So it's a worthwhile comparison. And how do you think they compare? I mean, start with a tricky question. Which do you prefer? Is it hard?
shoot the episode down in flames, because there's no two ways about it. I do prefer Snatcher still. It's like, I mean, it's so hard to replace. I mean, I just prefer everything about Snatcher more, like the world, the story, and obviously it's got so much more nostalgia. Because again, like you, this was my first proper full playthrough of Policenauts for this episode. I mean, like you as well, I had started it numerous times in the past and that, but never really sat down with it. But and I suppose it kind of, part of that is it doesn't quite grip me in the way that Snatcher does. Snatcher's a bit more faster paced. It moves a lot quicker, doesn't it, with what's kind of happening.
It does really rattle along, because I think that's the thing. It's almost, maybe it's not for everyone. I think it's a bit of a given that Snatcher is preferred. It did review better, so I suppose there's that. But certainly us, but everyone we spoke about it, I think just generally prefers Snatcher. It's more of a classic, and part of that in the West might be just we just didn't get Policenauts for so long.
Yeah.
And stuff. But I think it is a difference.
It was teased in CVG. I have the it right here actually. As well.
The OG.
Can you see that? I don't know if you can see how well I can see that, but it
was
was actually initially revealed as Snatcher 2 in CVG. And I mean, obviously the screenshots there are Policenauts, and they just say it's Policenauts as well in the article. But that was
because we found a few things, didn't we, that suggest there was a link, that being one of the main ones. Obviously, if they were saying that, they could have just guessed, but actually we found some stuff which suggested that's the way that Konami were pitching it, and maybe in early development and stuff, they hadn't fully fleshed it out. I don't know, but there was definitely an intentional, or at one point an expected link between the two, and you do see nods in it, like we said, but differences anyway. So it's like, I think you're right. It doesn't quite grab you in the same way, because Snatcher does click along, and certainly the opening to Policenauts, it's a good half an hour before anything really substantial. You get some nice cinematics and you get some nice story. It's all well done, but it's quite a slow first half an hour, and then you get like a literally explosive event. But but Snatcher, it's like, I think the way I remember it, I mean, you get a bit of intro. I did actually replay the intro the other day. You get a bit of intro, but it feels like you're pretty much only 10 or 20 minutes in and you're already seeing beheaded whatever his name is.
I mean,
Gibson,
you are kind of straight into the action, I suppose, aren't you? I mean, you have the intro, you have your little look around Junker HQ, and then suddenly the phone rings, doesn't it, on Metal Gear, and then you're off to the factory to meet those what they called insectors, and then Gibson the beheaded and all that stuff. It's like it's very, very quick, that whole bit.
It's just into it.
Whereas this plods along a little fast, doesn't it? I mean, like for a little while I was actually a bit stuck on the I think the first screen you get to, because it's like you're clicking around with it's more like point and click, isn't it, than Snatcher's you're just controlling the kind of options most of the time, aren't you, at the bottom of the screen, whereas this you're kind of exploring the screen with your little cursor. And I was like, I feel like I've clicked on as much as I can possibly see here, and I'm still stuck on this screen. So it took a little while, like a little bit more exploration kind of to get it moving. But then once it does kick in, though, it is pretty.
Oh god, I totally had that, and I kind of have a reason, I guess, why it is, because in the Snatcher menu, you know, there's only so much screen space you've got to put the things that are there. You know, there's essentially like you can have 6 or 7 things you can click on, and that's it. Whereas with a screen, essentially, if they're quite small, you can, like that first scene when you're in his office, there's about 20 different things to interact with, and some of them you have to multiple. You know, it's a bit ponderous at times.
It's a little bit, isn't it? Yeah, but like I say, once it gets going and you have that, you know, there's the explosion, the car explosion outside and all that stuff, and then you're in a firefight down that alley, and that's when it's like it is pretty fun and gets kind of exhilarating at that point, and it's a bit better.
I don't think it has as many like real standout moments. There's some good scenes, but one of the things that I loved in Snatcher was like beheaded Gibson, like the like Jamie appearing on camera with the Snatcher mask, like the what's that, the lady's name that is a Snatcher, and you go to her flat and then she like opens her mouth and does, you know, shoots you.
Something Nielsen. Is it Isabel?
Isabella?
No, sorry, I'm thinking of Isabella Velvet, aren't I? Yeah, I know who you mean. That. I know the girl. I don't
know if it's her boyfriend, but the guy who's a surfer, and he's like, I can't remember. I want to say Tom.
Oh, her boyfriend was Freddie Nielsen, but I think he was actually.
Yeah, but they think Freddie's Snatcher. Anyway, but the point, like, they're also standout scenes.
It's been more than 5 minutes ago since we last played Snatcher, so we're like very confused.
Don't forget, we're old. We are old. But you know, standout moments, just graphically brilliant. You know, like some of the when you get introduced to like Random Magil and stuff, and it's like he's so well drawn. It's more fun. You know, they have lots of kind of really marquee moments with really good hand-drawn stills, and I love it. And obviously the music that kicks in at the same time, I think that's probably the bigger one as well. Policenauts got really good music. It's really well done. It's really high quality stuff. Like the tunes are good, but I can hear in my head the Snatcher kind of mystery exciting moment tune, the ding 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 ding.
Man, I've got the same thing playing in my head right now. Like, don't, exactly the same. It's just, I don't know why, but it's right there.
So all of this kind of sounds like maybe we're being a bit down on Policenauts. I think it's more just I'm so up on Snatcher. There's so much I just adore about it. This Policenauts hits loads of good notes. It just doesn't hit them as well as Snatcher. I think that's probably where I'd come at it from.
It's definitely a bit more spaced out and leisurely feeling to in comparison to Snatcher to me.
I will say this though, maybe the kind of the wider range of it's got a wider range of fleshed out characters. That's maybe one thing. You know, you think of you think of Ed. We get to know him as well as Jonathan Ingram, really, and like, you know, I think okay, so that's good. The bad guys, there's not just one in Snatcher, there's not just one in Policenauts really, but like you get to know each of them quite well. There's sort of like Redwood, he's quite a good villain. He's got a bit of depth to him. Probably even, you know, like Katrina in Snatcher, you think she just crops up a couple of times as a bit of a almost like fluffy sort of interest. Obviously there's a bit of smut in there as well. That's always a bit of smut in there. Where like Jonathan's, not Jonathan's, like what's her name? Something Hojo. Oh, I'm gonna have to look it up.
Oh, Lorraine.
No, Karen.
His ex-wife.
Karen Hojo, the daughter.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, she sort of plays a similar role in the plot, like this sort of like the.
I thought that's what they were going for.
Yeah, but you get to know her a hell of a lot better, and I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe. What do you think of that? There's a broader range of fleshed out characters in Policenauts, and that's good. You know, they do that quite well.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of characters in it if you kind of sit back and like look at the list and that. I mean, like I've written down everything here so that I don't forget who they are, but it's quite an extensive list. But it's they've all got their backstories and plenty of depth to them, haven't they? And you do kind of, I think because it feels a little bit slower, it does feel a bit like you spend a bit more time with them and that, and you kind of do get to learn quite a lot about them, and it's quite interesting. They're very.
I was going to say there is a weird angle to this though, that because obviously we had the speech in Japanese and it's subtitled. It does put a really different spin on it, because we had the English voice acting for Snatcher, and so you know they kind of fill in the blanks. You know what that character sounds like, and it gives you a really clear impression of who they want you to think they are. You don't really get that for the Japanese. It feels very good. You know, you guess, they sound like they're doing a really good job, but obviously your brain is filling in a lot of the gaps. It's probably part of it. You know, there is a little bit more moldable to.
I suppose so. Yeah, yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's kind of how we're taking. Do you remember how this was received when it came out? I sort of. Obviously, like, we wouldn't have got the same level of coverage, but it did get featured. I do remember it being a thing.
It was kind of, it was a bit pre-internet, or like the internet was in its infancy, and we never got it in our magazines being reviewed, did we? So it wasn't until a bit later that we kind of even found out that how it was accepted in Japan, which was the only place that it was actually released. So but it was kind of. What was it in the 8 to 9 kind of categories, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the weird thing is, like, because that's completely right. Because obviously we never would have had a review that said, "Oh, let's rush out and buy it," because we just wouldn't. But I've just always had the view it was played second fiddle to Snatcher, and like that's I don't know how far back that goes, because obviously the fan translation just only goes back. What was it, 2016 for us? I think 2009 for the PlayStation one.
Yeah, that's it. Saturn got it 2016.
I definitely feel like
PlayStation was...
I've always thought that, but don't know. Mind plays tricks in here. So
I guess I don't know. I kind of maybe had it up on a bit of a pedestal in my mind because of that kind of how much we were cut off from it. It was like it's like forbidden fruit or something like that. It's like, I want this, but I can never have it and stuff until. Then you have the nice surprise of the fan translations being possible, which I didn't even know was a thing. Like, it was like, not for Sega Saturn or anything like that. It was a very nice surprise to get those.
Those examples where it's forbidden fruit, they generally don't work out. The one that always jumps out at me, Night Trap.
What's that?
That's always a game where I thought, it was a bit of forbidden fruit, obviously with all the like kerfuffle around it at the time.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, okay. Like swearing like a nightie.
You know what one of my memories is of Night Trap is that dude who we used to know who was the games dealer guy who would go to his house and swap games with him, and he had it playing in his living room one time, and like he was like, oh, it's a 15 or whatever it was rated, and he like turned it off, and we were trying to see as much as we could before he switched it off, and it's like stuff like that is like, it just makes you want to play it even more.
That's how they get.
We did get hold of it pretty. We did get hold of it pretty quick, actually. I think Chris got it on his Mega CD, like probably actually not even long after that. So we kind of saw it.
Stuff would just.
He did,
I never quite knew how it appeared. He just had ways of getting stuff. Yeah,
he did. Yeah.
So that's, I suppose, a continuation of where we go, but the story itself, yes, it's fully fleshed out. It's he puts a lot of detail into it. We've said kind of we maybe were more grabbed by Snatcher, but let's sort of go a little bit into what the story's about and what we liked and didn't like about it, because it is a very impressive story. It's like really in detail.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, first, give us a little flavour of what the game actually goes on about. What's it rambling on about?
Well, you play as the main character is Jonathan Ingram, who's basically Riggs, isn't he, from Lethal Weapon? but like the title Policenauts derives from, like, you know, being police and an astronaut, which is what he kind of was. He was like a space police kind of guy, wasn't he? And there was this whole department set up and that, and there was a space station called Beyond, which is like near by the Earth, which looks very much like a space station in the Adam Warren's Dirty Pair and Plague of Angels as well. So when I saw it, it's like the cylindrical kind of thing with the land all around there. And actually, at the beginning of the game, I can't remember what it was, but he said a name that is very similar to what I thought was in A Plague of Angels as well. But anyway, it's all just details. It's probably some like...
Listen, I'm just impressed that you're noticing anything in Dirty Pair other than the Dirty Pair. I mean, fair play.
They were certainly intriguing to our younger selves.
Yes, it was a comic strip with several excellent assets.
It was.
I didn't need to go and wash my mouth out. But the bit in, just on that for a sec, but the bit in Policenauts where they're in Zero G, that really reminded me of that. I'm sure there's even a scene in Dirty Pair where there's like they're all floating around and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
It's
like, I mean, the space station just looked like it was the exact same idea, but then it just made me think like, oh, is this just like an anime/manga thing that's like a popular kind of design that they use in a bunch of stuff? I don't know, but anyway, so Jonathan Ingram, he's basically so he's doing some work, isn't he, outside the space station, and he basically gets lost in space, and his suit kind of like, you know, preserves his life, like and he's just floating out there for like 25 years or something until he's eventually found. And so he basically comes back to Earth, which they call home, don't they, in this game. But he sets up like his own private investigation agency kind of thing. But then obviously like all the people that he knew and was his friends and his ex-wife and that, like, they're all a lot older. And it was actually quite sad actually, that initial opening part with his wife, where she's like, you know, like what was she, like 55ish or something like that. And he's like in his 30s, and it's just like, you know, all that time has passed and she's moved on and remarried and all that sort of stuff, and you kind of like, it's a bit like, you can kind of feel for him in that situation. But you know,
like old Tom Hanks in Castaway, when he comes back and he goes and meets Helen Hunt.
Oh right,
that's sad, you know. But luckily in this case, is ex-wife's new husband's dead. So we don't have a weird conflict.
Well, no, he's missing, isn't he?
He's missing.
That's it. And so so it's almost like the ultimate insult that she's asking him to find her new husband. It's like that's just bang out of order, isn't it? It's like, what are you playing at? You could go to anyone. You could beat it. Get out of here.
Go to anyone.
It's like, get out of here.
I mean, it's harsh. And she just but I love it's a bit of a trope, I guess, for Kojima, because although Gillian Seed, Jamie Seed aren't asleep for like 30 years or something, that the idea of them dropping out, kind of losing touch with their old life, that bit it sort of carries across, doesn't it?
Being put
it's
back
a good
into
plot
this...
device, isn't it? It's like
it works. I think it's good, and it kind of actually it helps with the kind of Danny Glover character, doesn't he? Like to the Riggs, like Ed Brown, he's called in this game, because of, you know, he is a bit older and wiser and what have you, and it's like, you know, they kind of creates that similar dynamic, doesn't it? So
I have to say, you know, I know he's sort of borrowed the dynamic, but they do that dynamic very well. And bearing in mind, you know, they're telling it through some of it's animated, you know, but obviously mostly stills, and then the voice actor. They do it really well, and I really think Ed's character's great. But
they're all great. All the main characters I really like.
So I read the other day, just said about the Riggs Murtaugh thing, that apparently, obviously, I always assumed that he based Gillian Seed and Snatcher on Harrison Ford. I mean, you know, the coat and stuff, that is a dead cert, but apparently he's said in interviews that he based him on Mel Gibson, and it's like, so he's obviously got a real thing for Mel Gibson, but I don't really see it, if I'm honest, but you know.
Yeah, less so. I mean, maybe there's parts of him in the character.
I mean, in Policenauts, like, definitely, it's even like the wild hair.
I mean, that is literally him if he dyed his hair blue, isn't it? So,
I love that.
That's the same.
That's literally him if he dyed his
dude.
hair blue. You can say that about a lot of people. I mean, you're literally Billy. What's the guy with white hair called Billy? It's Billy Idol. There you go. You're literally Billy Idol if you dyed your hair white. You know.
I thought you were going to say Billie Eilish or something. What?
That's where my brain started going. I thought, we should not be doing this late at night. This is like very confused. So yeah, but I mean, Lethal Weapon. Well, let's take a bit of a segue, because Lethal Weapon are undoubtedly a massive reference. You know, the fact that it's set in space doesn't stop him having a buddy cop movie, and it's just they just look identical. So it's not even trying to hide it. But we spotted, I think everyone spotted these, but there's like a massive nod to some others. Dragnet was the one I really loved. So bit in Dragnet where, you know, and I think again this happens in a few cop films from the 80s, but it's like, you know, they go out, the two cops, like the two hero cops, discover this like massive like crime thing going on. They go back to get the chief. They come back with all the guns blazing, and somehow it's gone. It's almost like frame for frame what happens in Dragnet, or then happens in Policenauts. And then,
I mean, it's the classic thing, isn't it?
But then one I didn't spot, and you were convinced I'd spot it, was the Die Hard stuff. So tell us what happened. What's the Die Hard link is, yeah.
Oh, well, like, and basically...
We'll say this, sorry, like, if anyone hasn't played it, there are minor spoilers what we're saying, but realistically, like, you'll forget this by the time you play it, so don't worry about it, but this is
Yeah, so basically, it all kind of boils down to what happens at the end, and you can kind of see it coming from very early on. So Ed Brown, your sidekick kind of guy, he's had like he basically shot someone that he shouldn't have, and it was like all very sad and all this stuff, and he could never bring himself to pull out his gun again and all that stuff. And it's basically the cop, isn't it, from Die Hard.
Yeah.
So then obviously when it gets to the end, the heroic moment when someone just needs that last cap put in them, like he pops up, doesn't he? All guns blazing, and I mean, it's basically the complete Die Hard thing.
Once you see it, it's definitely that, and it's also like a bit of a time capsule moment too, because having a heroic moment where you shoot someone, it seemed perfectly normal back in the 90s. Like people just got shot all over. These days, it's all a bit more touchy feely, and it's like you have to do something heroic, like, I don't know, recycle or something. something
Whereas
new.
in Die Hard, Al, after he shot that guy, I mean, he was ready to go again. I mean, like, something else happened, didn't he? When the limo pulls out, he's turned around, and the gun with the gun.
Who else could I shoot? Who else could I shoot?
Ready to unload. It's like, he's going for it.
And then there's one more which is like completely different, fishing in a different pond, but the Basic Instinct thing. You know, one of the, I wouldn't say, I was going to call her a love interest. I suppose one of the main female leads that Jonathan lectures over, and he does lecture over quite a few. Chris Gold, is it Goldwyn? Chris Goldwyn, like the main
Goldwyn, yeah.
You know,
she's got
director. The hospital director. She's got a famous scene where she's sort of being interviewed with her legs crossed, and then keeps crossing or uncrossing her legs, and then
she does,
But in something that doesn't happen in Basic Instinct, she then like has a fly land on her lady parts.
Yeah, there's a very interesting situation where you're having to pat down the fly, isn't it? And it's going all over
Clearly
her. And...
doing it for her benefit.
yes, I know.
I mean,
he's doing her a favour or something.
It's probably worth chucking in. I think we have to mention the approach to women and sort of the general lecherousness of both of these games. You know, I don't remember it in Metal Gear. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't really remember stuff like that happening. But it's like Snatcher, like famously has like the scene where sort of Gillian walks in on Junior in the shower, and in the original she's very young. I think she's a bit older in our sort of Western version.
They raised her age up, didn't they, in the West.
And he pretty much hits on everyone, and there's, you know, it's something we didn't know at the time, but was how big like dating sims were and stuff in Japan, and Saturn particularly like thrived on them. It had loads of them, and that essentially is kind of an element of that, but it comes across in both games as he's just constantly hitting on people. In Snatcher, it comes across as Gillian is just a bit of a loser, no hoper. Like he's fumbling around, sort of trying to be smooth, and sort of says like inappropriate things. I don't remember him ever really touching anyone up. I think he just sort of like and that's the difference in Policenauts.
That's it. Old Jonathan would be arrested.
Yeah,
like,
you'd be arrested.
Ed should have had him in the cuffs. But the thing was, I mean, I can totally think at the time we would have thought it was like hilarious.
I could not deny it.
Like,
I mean, we had a joke around it, but I guess to stress it's point and click. I'm just going to say the game is point and click. There's interactions with ladies. It sort of makes you do stuff which you feel a bit icky doing.
Yeah, it's definitely, but it's a little bit jarring the way he does it, because he can be very serious.
Yeah,
like doing his investigation, and then suddenly he's like, "Ooh, the ladies," and he's suddenly all over it, and it's like, "Oh, that's a really weird shift in tone from like this really serious cop guy who's like, really angry and dead set on revenge and stuff, and then suddenly he's like feeling up some lady or something."
It's just a bit of it is jarring. It's sort of jarring with modern sensibilities, but it's also just jarring in the plot. And I'd say that it's like back in the day. Don't get me wrong. Back in the day, as teenagers, we just lapped it up, and it would have been a right laugh. But these days, obviously, it feels a bit weird. It feels weird because he's basically touching them up. When it was like just sort of being like smarmy and lecturous, it's kind of it's sort of more on him being a loser. But this sort of felt a bit different. Yeah, it sort of feels a bit weird. Obviously, but the main thing is that it just feels a bit out of kilter with the plot. In Snatcher, it's a bit more part of what's going on. It doesn't sort of take down a weird detour to be lecturous and then bring you back. It just sort of happens within the action, whereas this does feel like it's
that's true.
Shoehorned
It's
in.
a bit of a detour. I know what you mean.
So it's
but like
you
say, I mean, we would have loved that dynamic though back in the 90s. We'd have been like on those screens for ages.
And the thing is, look, like I said to you earlier, in these games, I do click on everything, and I guess I only know this happens because I've done it. So mea culpa, but let's just say I felt guilty. I think we both did.
Felt like a wronging.
I mean, we've come there via the story. We started saying, the story was he gets lost in space and he kind of comes back.
Yeah.
His wife turns up. She says that my new husband's gone missing. Even though I haven't seen you for 30 years, I still fancy him more than you. Please, can you go find him? And so, harsh. And then she basically goes outside and gets taken out, and that kind of that makes Jonathan get involved. If he was wavering before, she leaves him with some clues, and he goes off to beyond the space station and starts to explore. And I guess there's the subplot or the sort of side plot is his old Policenaut buddies are all still around, and they've assumed new roles within the structure of this space station, and so he kind of, in the course of investigation, he comes across them. There's this huge pharmaceutical company, Tokugawa, that's one of the old Policenauts is running that. One of them's the police chief, one of them is Ed, who's his mate, and then there's another fella who's just sort of is just along for the ride, who just sort of didn't
Salvatore,
it's like
he's just like, well, he's kind of like the sidekick, isn't he? To the other guys, really.
He feels more like a goon.
Doing the dirty work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but the whole thing is like, you kind of think that they're going to be your friends, and then there's twists and turns. You kind of find out they're not the best people, and what they've actually been up to is pretty bad, and that actually it turned out that what happened to Jonathan wasn't so much of an accident, because they were the other people in his team. So yes, we'll leave that to you to discover if you play the game.
That's the thing that will have hacked me off the most. He finds out they're nicking people's organs and they've killed a bunch of people, but if I found out that I took the rap for mucking up the space mission 30 years ago and actually it was these dudes' fault, I'd be furious. I know. Yeah.
It's bang out of order.
I mean, this is one of the big references to Metal Gear, actually, isn't it? Because Tokugawa, it is a conglomerate, I suppose, in the game. So it makes pharmaceuticals, but it's pretty much runs beyond the space station. And they also make these mech suits, and it's hinted that they're doing other things that are kind of in the sort of military space. And then is it Metal Gear? There's a bunch of the crates or the kit that you get has got Takagawa branded on it, and it's like, am I saying it right? Takagawa, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Takagawa.
Yeah, Takagawa.
But they kind of reminded me of OCP from Robocop.
Massively OCP, yeah.
Which is like, it's basically this company that owns everything, owns the police. And actually, I did wonder if there was a bit of a nod there, because the police department is called BCP, isn't it? And so it's very close to OCP. So I did wonder if there was a little bit of a nod there, perhaps.
I totally didn't clock it while I was playing, but maybe there's like something in the back of my head going, why does that feel familiar? It's definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, but that's the whole idea, isn't it? Basically, a corrupt corporation owns everything and is pulling all the strings behind the scenes. Yeah. So.
And in there's this, there's plots and subplots. I suppose the main plots is around the way they're like trying to essentially like set up this massive like organ transplantation or organ stealing like crime ring, and it's the way they're going about doing it, and it is a good story. I probably didn't get the whole sort of reason why it's necessary, and in the real world, one of the things that came out around that time was you'd had the first Japanese fellow go into space, and there was a lot of talk about space and more widely what happens if you were to set up a space colony and stuff. And there's quite a lot of chat about this. I weirdly heard it on the radio a few weeks ago talking about this exact thing. And it is, the expectation is, if you went out in space, it has a massively harmful effect on your organs. So if we ever did want to go out into these places, this is one of the consequences. People's organs would fail and they die quicker and all that. And so the plot is reacting to that. It's just sort of not really explained in it. So it is in there if you look for it, but it's not really explained why is this organ transplantation such a big deal. It's like maybe I was being dense, but because it is in there, it's like I didn't really quite clock it. So
right, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of information being thrown at you, so I'm sure there's plenty that I missed. It's just like, just whoosh.
And there's ladies to let you after. It's kind of. It's everything. It's just there's.
You got your hands full, literally in some cases. Anyway,
I could see that joke coming from about 10 minutes ago. So. I mean, that for me, that's the like the main stuff we wanted to cover, and it probably leads us to saying like it as a game. One of the big things we were doing was comparing it to Snatcher.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
It's also a game we had wanted to play for ages, both of us. And so having now played it, it's because of the type of game it is, it's maybe not such an easy question to say, would you play it again? But I'll ask it anyway. Would you still play it today? Would you have another crack at it?
I'd give it a bit of a window before I get back into it again. Like, I mean, I could definitely say that I would play Snatcher a lot more than this with smaller gaps in between. I would be interested in revisiting it at some point, but probably not for a while. If only for that bomb scene. The way you're defusing the bomb in the bag shop, which is a really random kind of thing to happen anyway, but that was a bit of a nightmare I found. It was
I'm obviously not glad you struggled, but I am glad it wasn't just me, because it took me 30 goes. It was something ridiculous. I think you said that you struggled and then revealed to me it was like 3 goes or something, and then I was like, I had like 30 goes, and you were like,
no, I'm sure I did more than 3. It was definitely one of those things that stuck in my mind, like mate, that is a freaking nightmare sort of thing.
I mean, it's good,
but
I'd say it's good. The game actually more in that later stage, it did have these sub games. This was the bomb disposal was like kind of in a new sort of method of play. You kind of diffuse this bomb by interacting with, and there's a couple of little bits like that which, to be honest, didn't really occur. Even like the bit where you have to find a code by playing CDs on the CD player and stuff. That's a fun little thing. And
and there are like some interesting action sequences as well. So like there's a bit where you're kind of like tailing someone and you're like leaning out the window of a car and shooting them, and they're on the motorbike. So there's like a lot of these different elements, and because it's on the Saturn and the PlayStation as well, they can do quite a lot like with the animations and all that sort of stuff, and I think they did actually hire some good artists, didn't they? Who I think one of them actually worked for a Sunrise anime company or something, and so they'd done a good job with like these kind of scenes where there was like a lot going on, like there was a lot more animation than what you would get in something like Snatcher and things. Cause it's
the animation's a good quality. We know what we have to point out at that point though.
What's that?
We got to talk Saturn versus PlayStation, because PlayStation was 15 frames per second on the animation sequences or the video sequences
on the FMV.
And like Saturn 24. So
yeah.
And Kojima
said again.
He said he thought like he was really proud of the earlier versions. Was it PC-98? I can't remember. And you know, really obviously because it was the original. And when he did the PlayStation, he thought, oh no, this is the best one. When he did the Saturn one, which was later, he then said, no, this is the definitive one. And it's you hear him in interviews. Actually, he seems to have a special affinity with the Saturn one, and you know, I don't know where that comes from. Whether it's just because that is the version where he got it right, or whether it's something about the machines itself. You know, we were skewed for Snatcher. I always felt like the Mega CD one was the most important. Other ports, as you know, as you read more of the history, have meant similar things to other people, but it always felt that way to me, that the Sega, you know, the Mega CD one was the one that mattered. But the Saturn one,
definitely.
He said this is the best version.
That's the one.
Just
Shame he didn't give it Saturn a bit more love, though. Was it? I mean, we got the best we got was Metal Gear Solid music on the title screen, wasn't it? For Policenauts, but not a sniff of the actual.
And it could have been done because you were seeing that frog balls like.
I know,
the first bit of first bit of Metal Gear can be done. But the other thing, actually, we completely forgotten to say, was those action sequences you mentioned. That admittedly they are better in Policenauts than Snatcher, because Snatcher did support the Lethal Enforcer's gun, didn't it? You could have light gun support, but essentially it was like a 9-box grid and you sort of shot. Whereas in Policenauts, it's free roaming. You know, you move the cursor around. It's bloody hard at times because of that, because when they're really busy sequences, enemies will pop up all over. You have to be pretty accurate. But it does support the light gun. And you know, and although I didn't get a chance to play it because I've only now, after we finished playing it, managed to fish out the wires I need to hook up my system to the CRT. So I will give it a go. But that is a cool thing. So even though I can't talk to it personally, you know, those action sequences are pretty good with a pad. So with the light gun, I would think they're quality. Yeah,
I think that the shooting scenes and things like that, it's got a grander scale than anything in Snatcher. Snatcher's you know, like you say, it's that 9-box grid on a static background that's quite, you know, it's like one room or one particular thing. But you know, as you go particularly towards the end of the game, there's a whole building, isn't there, a block or something, and there's troops all over it and things like that, and then you're chasing down the end guy and you're kind of looking up through this stairwell and things like that, and it's that's a little bit like Ghostbusters actually as well, isn't it? You know, when you're going up all the flights of stairs at the end. Where do these stairs go? That's another one. They go up. So but that sequence, that just for anyone who has played, picture this. It's you're in essentially like a block of flats with the rows of levels. It's an office building, of troops on them. And there's at one point maybe 30 on the screen at once, tiny little sprites appearing. With the light gun, that would be hard. With the cursor, moving it around, it was nigh impossible. So I did discover, if you use the L and R triggers, it does kind of do an auto jump to whatever's to your left and right. Right. I died a lot of times before I found that out. So I didn't discover that in the whole game. I thought this is you were telling me after you did that, and I was like, wait, there's a way to do it. And I've got to be honest, I genuinely cannot see how you got through that scene without it, because it was you know, it's like an auto aim effectively, but I was just hammering that button, just trying to scan, try and go across one line at a time and just take loads of guys out in one go. and stuff. But then when it's in the top, like the top left corner, and then suddenly you need to be shooting down in the bottom right hand corner, and the little cursor scrolling all the way down there, it just feels like an eternity. So that's when I was really like, oh man, where's the gone? I could just like.
Yeah, that's when I wanted my 9-box grid. So, I mean,
exactly.
You know, as is classic me, I've garbled up the order of things. I asked you the final question before about whether you still play it. I guess that the better question to ask is, does it still hold up? You know, we're playing it just shy of 30 years late, aren't we? So is that right?
I guess.
Oh no, just over 30 years late. It was like Saturn 96, so we are just shy. But
yeah, I mean the 3DO one came out in 95, didn't it? So yeah,
and PC
98 was 94. Yeah, so 31.
But this Saturn one we played, 29 years. So does it hold up? You know, as a
I
game,
think
as
it
a
does.
concept? Yeah.
I mean, I've enjoyed it more than a lot of modern games that I play, but maybe that's just my taste. But I really enjoyed it, and I think it's good. I think, you know, the animation, like the anime kind of style is, you know, it's pretty timeless, isn't it? And it's like, it looks good still, it sounds good, it's a interesting story. I mean, I think it's it ticks the boxes for me. So what about you?
Well, good character, good script, good music, good story, you know, those things don't really age. So I really did feel like it held up, and I actually kind of found it quite refreshing to play such a different style of game in the middle of playing modern games. Because there's a great range of games in modern games, but they, you know, there are a few kind of genres that dominate, and this is definitely not one of them. There's not really anything similar to this. There's still got a few kind of, you see the odd like Monkey Island style game come out, which is obviously got a similar vibe, got a similar mechanics and stuff, but you know, it's not common. And I thought that refreshing feel of the game for a game that's 29 years old to be, or whatever old, to be refreshing is brilliant. I just got to admit something, which is though I'm like I am like often really critical of modern games that are really linear. You know, modern cinematic games that are super story led, like they desperately want to show you their cutscenes, and they need to give you the exposition and stuff, and they really wind me up because they're so handholdy. You know, whatever action sequences there are is basically just channeling you down to the next bit of storyline, and it gets on my nerves. And the bottom line is that is exactly what Policenauts does. It's just for some reason it didn't bother me. I enjoyed it, and I guess it's because it's set up that way from the start. It is like an action adventure game, and it's there to tell you a story and for you to kind of interact with it. Whereas something like, people are going to hate me for this, but I always pick on God of War, because I always feel like that is a game that's got this massive, brilliant cinematic thing. People are wowed by it. They always say it's amazing. And I just find myself getting really frustrated because of these sort of like, you know, quick time event style fights and just sort of hand-holding mechanics. Yeah.
I mean, it's very impressive. It's like, like looks amazing. You can see all the production is there on the screen, like all that money. You can see it kind of coming out of the screen. But it's like, it was just, there was like all these, the quick time events, and I was just like, mate, I'm like, I feel really bored. And I just quit the game, and I do just prefer these older style games to that kind of thing. But,
it is an X factor. It's charm. Maybe it's the music or the tightness of the story plotting, or maybe it's just the story itself. I can't really explain why the exact thing I'd criticise a lot of modern cinematic games for is what I really liked about Policenauts, but they are set up differently, and maybe it's just the quality of it. You know, it's like, it's so well done, and so I have to leave it there. I know it's a contradiction, but I did really like it for that, even though it winds me up in modern games.
Definitely.
So I thought it held up. So, well, I'm super glad we've played it. And this best thing about Book Club. Best thing about Book Club, it kind of, we always said from the start, it gets us playing some of these things. You know, we set out.
I mean, this has been something I've been looking to tick off for years. Like, and it's just having that reason to do it, and this has been like great doing.
And I definitely say to anyone watching or listening, if you haven't got a copy of play it on the Saturn first off. If you haven't got a copy of the ROM, if you can't get it on the ROM, you can always get it on a disc. Although fan translation is better to kind of like not support kind of Etsy traders or whatever with giving them the cash for someone else's work, maybe. But you've got to play it. So whatever way you can, just get a copy.
It needs to be played. Yeah.
It needs to be played. It is that good. So, talking about things that need to be played, what do we need to play next? I'm so slick at this stuff these days. See how I did that? We just, moving on.
That was seamless.
Thanks, dude. So, what are we talking?
So we are going for a little game known as Super Mario World. Super
Cheeky.
Nintendo / Super Famicom. Classic game to many. Yes, well, I mean, it's a big one, isn't it?
It's a big one, yeah. And it's not the first Nintendo game we feature on the channel, but is it the first book club we've done a Nintendo game? I think it is, right?
I was just trying to think. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, have we actually done anything other than Sega? I can't even remember.
I've done a Mario Kart video, like a non-book club thing.
I mean for book club.
Yeah, no, not for book club. I think obviously we've done games made by other people, but they were on Sega systems. So yeah.
Yeah.
But like we would say, most of the games are Sega, and so we always thought, games that are really big or important to us, games that we just have got an affinity for, or just that we want to talk about, they'll feature.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the first one, and so it is a massive game, and probably everyone watching, listening has played it. But God, there's a lot to say. I mean, we've both started playing it in preparation already, and it's still an amazing game. There's an amazing story to tell, so I'm looking forward to visiting it.
I mean, and saying most people have played it, I hold my hands up. I have never beaten it. Like, I own it twice. I've got it on. I've got the Super Nintendo one. I've got the Super Famicom one, and I've got it on the SNES Mini as well. But I have never actually beaten it, so this is going to be a new experience for me because, I was very much a Sega kid, so. It's going to be interesting.
Don't I know it about the grief I got for having this?
What a SNES boy.
Yeah. Listen, talking about completing it, I've got a story to tell you. But it's going to have to wait for the next book club.
Wait for another day.
Talk about suspense. Yeah.
There you
nice
go.
One.
Well, I can't even wait myself right now. So. But I actually can't wait myself. So with everything being said... Well, this has been great.
Yeah, he's getting slick as well. See, that was just smooth. Just smooth.